Tommy Rex, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now, here's your host.
I am Monty Heath.
Cannot graduate! Cannot unpopular! I'm gonna give you 100%. Been crawling in the dark, looking for the answer.
What's going on, everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and we've pretty much been having like an entire telehealth conversation before we even got getting into the nitty gritty here. But I'm excited to have a conversation going down memory lane, man, in the Cleveland metal and hardcore scene, talking to my friend Chris Wood of the band Ascension. What's going on, man?
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah,
Thanks
you
for
too.
having me.
Oh yeah, I'm stoked. I don't know. I don't recall if you've done many of these before, so it's like I'm pretty excited just to sit you down and get you on here.
This is okay. So I'm a total virgin. This is my first podcast. You also
Nice.
have to remember the last time we did anything as a band was about 15 years ago. So that was obviously at a time that I don't think many people were doing podcasts back then, or hell,
Yeah.
let's talk
Yeah,
to me.
true.
Come on, what the hell?
True.
So-
True. Yeah.
Don't agree with that. Come on, it's
No.
great to talk to me.
No. I'm excited to talk to you. I just mean 15 years ago there was no probably Zoom and all that good stuff. So
No. It
Yeah.
was, our last show was at Peabody's with One Life Crew. And,
Oh, yeah.
So
I remember that one.
man. And I'm thinking, I'm doing the math here, and because a few months ago when I heard the proposal of us doing a reunion, I'm doing the math. I'm like, dude, first off, I'm over 50, okay, and it's 15 years since we performed, and we're just like, has it been that long? And we were all double checking to see what the date of the last show was, and it will be 15 years, when we finally play in November, because I think it was like September, something of way back when. So.
Nice. Well, I mean, definitely get it out. We're not getting any younger, but this will be exciting. And I want to get into the more with the reunion, but usually when I have guests on for the first time, I like to go way back to before the beginning, like you guys have been promoting here.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember what little Chris originally wanted to be when he grew up?
Good Lord, I have no freaking clue. Honestly, hey, hold on. My dog will not go up to the stairs without assist. Come on. I was going to get into healthcare of some sort. So I don't know how early on that was, but I started work at a hospital, when I was, 16. So,
Oh, wow.
My mom was a nurse. And so, so I kind of knew back then, but then the path kind of skewed a little bit for a moment there. And I was thinking maybe of doing music full time. So, but initially, I'd probably say something in healthcare. I was actually going to go into be a PA, physician's assistant. So,
Gotcha. And then, as you said, it did skew a little bit. When did even before you even got the itch to perform, do you recall some of your earliest memories of music being played around the home?
Neil Diamond, my love for Neil. So I love that dude. So grew up on
Nice.
Neil Diamond, and obviously Lamarca and I share this. Kiss was obviously ingrained with me. Neil Diamond and Kiss, they were obviously the two major things going on in the Wood household back then. So my brothers, I was the youngest of 3 boys. So older brother was super into Kiss. And then obviously, of course, you got to play Kiss, you know. So obviously I was the star child. My brother was Ace, other brother was Gene, but obviously that's you know, we never gotten into the face painting. So I was kind of jealous when Skip Line did that show and they painted their faces. I was like, damn it. But I knew we couldn't do it because we'd just be a ripoff of them. So yeah.
Gotcha. And then when was it that like you had, you know, gotten that bite to actually start performing, playing music yourself?
So Jason Hager, he's been a friend of mine for ever since I was probably 13, 14. He was a little older. I think he's got me by maybe 2 or 3 years. So at first he didn't really like me that much. He stole my bike. Actually, it was went to the library and had my bike parked there, and it was gone. I was like, what the hell? And so then it turns out it was Jason. However, I didn't know, and we had become friends in this time, and you know, he didn't really want me to know that he stole my bike. And so, but eventually it came up, and so everything was obviously just fine. I got a much nicer bike after that, but he played guitar. So we knew we just kind of had this kinship, and we kind of wanted to do music together. And I was kind of dabbling a little bit with bass at the time. And so we started our first band, Prehistoric Underachievers. So each one had a name. I was LLGG Cool Alan J. I forget what Hagar's name was, but we had Sid Fish Toss and a few other guys. It was obviously just punk band, noise. Just we were heavily influenced by early Butthole Surfers and Flipper. So that's kind of gives you pretty much. We sucked. So that didn't last too long. But then as we just kind of we started kind of meeting other people. We were mostly in Bainbridge, Chagrin Falls area. And so when we were kind of Kensington kids, so we started just meeting people from Chagrin Falls and having similar interests in skateboarding and all that stuff. And so we got together with a few other guys and started a hardcore band called Everlast. Cliche. So we had one show. I played bass. Actually, we had 2 bass players because another friend of ours, he was, you know, we were just wanting to have fun time, but we wanted each other to be in the band. So we were like, what the hell? We'll just have 2 bass players. So kind of did that. And that quickly dissolved. And then we moved on to, again, with Hagar. Everything was, I talked to Hagar on Saturday. I was like, man, you know, you started like my musical career. So I said, I started everything with you. And so obviously then we came across this guy in Chagrin Falls named Matt DeVries. We bonded. I mean, Matt he was a metal dude, straight, you know, Obituary, Carcass. He was all about metal. And so we kind of had a little bit of metal and more hardcore as far as Jason and I's influences. And so we kind of just meshed together. And we, so initially we were in a basement and kind of talking about, okay, what do we want to do? And it was, Jason was like, well, I think I'm going to play bass. And Matt, of course, was a guitarist. And they were looking at me like, why don't you sing? I said, what? And I was like, all right. They were like, go up there, start screaming. So I went to the top of the stairs, started screaming. And they were like, yep, you got the gig. And so I was like, okay. And again, we were what, like 16, 17, something like that. And so, so we went through a few formations. We were named Gouge, and then later Falling in Line, we had a different drummer. And Falling in Line actually started playing out. We did, I remember early days we played with Hot Water Music. And that's how we actually met Sean Bonner, who was the owner of Toy Box Records. So he really liked our performances and, you know, liked our sound. And so we then were kind of developing a little bit better, and the drummer really just didn't fit with us that much. We kind of outgrew him. And so we sought out another drummer. He didn't work out that well either, but he played on our first record that was actually with Toy Box. So when we let the one drummer go, we changed the name to Ascension. So that's how we pretty much came to be. And that officially started, there was a, I think a 95 or 96 Hardcore Fest at the Fantasy Theater. So the guy was able to rent out the big theater, which was cool because I think I saw like two bands there. I saw 9 Inch Nails back in the day. They did like 2 back-to-back shows there, and I love that place. But they never had any shows there because they didn't have a sound system. So it's like sweet. So we played that, and that was our official transition to Ascension.
And what do you recall, like what inspired to pick Ascension?
So I guess the way I thought about it, because I think it was kind of on me that I think I came up with it, and I was like, well, you know, we had all these kind of incarnations, and the 3 core members were Hagar, Matt, and myself. And so then obviously we're kind of, I don't know if you want to say rising up, but moving forward and sending to other things. So you know, it's one of those things, a group of guys get together, you're trying to come up with a band name, and it's like, it's kind of spitball some things, but I had this kind of in the back of my head. I was like, what do you think about this? And so then I kind of just backed it up, and, you know, obviously it was sold. And then Hagar, he's a pretty good artist. So he definitely has a lot of very good ideas. So we actually adopted the Chaos logo that, of course, Chimera is now famous for. So it's funny when people see, you know, you're on the Chimera board and I see the A in the center of the Chaos logo, and they're like, hey, that's Chimera's. Like, yeah, I get to you. It was Ascension first. And so, of course, when Jason eventually left Ascension, you know, he formed Chimera and obviously took the Chaos logo. But he did the original logo for us. So yeah, definitely pretty talented guy.
So that was Jason that did the name, the logo, the way it's been on the albums.
Yep.
Nice.
He is still used today. So I mean, he did that, and he had a bunch of interesting ideas. So I always liked working with Jason. Obviously, I mean, I worked with him quite a bit.
I know one thing that I've always enjoyed, other than just the music with Ascension, but I always enjoyed the art that you'd have on the covers, like on that first album with Toy Box Records. I mean, what we're coming on 30 years, right? Of Years of Fire.
30 years. You feel old. I feel old. So,
but the artwork that came with the album and everything, was that where what inspired that? Who came up with all that?
So a lot of that was definitely Hagar, but also Matt and myself. Obviously, we at that time, you know, Jason was all about kind of, you know, if you meet Jason and in person and you look at his profile online, and it's 2 totally different people. You would think this dude's a total dick. He's just an asshole, but he's not. So he kind of likes to offend, but give that, you know, that persona that, okay, yeah. So, you know, obviously anti-religion, Satan, all that stuff. There was definitely a lot of themes going on with that first record. So, and no one ever really thought it was, oh, these guys are Satanists. No. Actually, we did play at Satanic Church one time. That was very interesting. They just had Satanic Mass. It was it was in Cincinnati. It was a weird thing. So we still talk about this day, just how odd the whole thing was. But yeah.
How did that gig come together?
We played with this band Catharsis, and I think Brian Dingledine, the singer of Catharsis, I think he booked it. I'm not sure, and I don't even know if we knew it was a Satanic Church. I quote, just because it was really gimmicky. It was a hardcore show that obviously there's a lot of hardcore kids there. So, I don't know if they did regular shows there or not, but yeah. So, yeah.
Or they did regular Mass there too?
Apparently. So, yep. Yeah, a lot of weird stuff back then. So
now I remember too, like now I don't know if you guys, I mean, probably weren't the first, but I recall like some of the first times I would hear samples used in songs was on your guys' album as well, like Kaleidoscope. Talk a little bit about that. Well, I mean, you wrote the music. Talk about what that song represents.
Good Lord. You're really going back. You're testing my memory. I haven't thought about it. I haven't listened to that album. I'm still waiting. We're still kind of finessing the set list. So was Kaleidoscope, that was probably the Gene Wilder's quote, I believe, from Willy Wonka. Was that one? We're the dreamers of dream?
No, there was like a kill yourself.
Kill yourself, David. Take your life. That was Rawhead Rex. So
okay,
that was Matt loved Rawhead Rex. I agree with that. So I liked it too. But he, I think it was Rawhead Rex. Yeah, I believe that was the quote that was from. So has nothing to do with the song, I don't think, whatsoever. And I sincerely apologize. I totally forget what Kaleidoscope was about. So we're talking 30 years here, Bill.
Yeah. I gotcha.
So
well, I'm gonna be pulling from memory for you. So
yeah,
let's see.
And also Kaleidoscope, I always pushed for that song. I always liked it. Matt, not much of a fan. So we, I don't think we played it. We haven't played that in a long time. So,
well, getting ready for this interview, of course, I was on shuffle going through both albums, and recalling the ones that, like, okay, I remember, I really like this one, so I'm going to ask about a lot of the ones I like. Like, I mean, who can forget Transit? Especially that opening, with the Omen.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, that's the one we always go to. Yeah, that's a good question. What that means, not sure. Obviously, we were super into horror back then, but most of really, with all my lyrics, I was more of a punk, hardcore, and then metal guy. So that's kind of how I evolved. So I really had more of that positive kind of mindset as far as lyrically, looking at personal struggles and things like that. And also got a lot of inspiration also from Jason too. So he had gone through a bunch of stuff growing up that we also kind of used and kind of helped lyrically to write a few songs and things like that. So I guess I better go back and look at some of these lyrics again. And again, obviously, we might be pulling out Transit. I don't know. So,
all right. I'm expecting definitely to hear that one. But
we'll see. Going down.
Another thing that I know became popular with CDs is like that when you think it's the last song, and then there's that silence, and then all of a sudden, there's like some stuff hidden in there. I believe with Station. I know there was like that gap in Station, and then all of a sudden there's another sample. He is God. It's like right in the middle, and then it sounds like it becomes another song.
Okay. It's so bad that I haven't listened to it. Matt's gonna look at this and he's like, Chris, you should have listened. You should have prepped more. How come your memory stuff? I'm like, hey, doing what I can. So I'll be ready for the show though.
All right, yeah, we'll get.
So that evolves. Yeah. Okay. So we were all right. So the story behind we're having a lot of fun in the studio. This was Spider Studios. Okay. So we had Shiggle, we had Hunter. They were
and this was like early on with Ben working then.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
This early in his career too.
This is in the garage. Okay. So he had the garage behind his parents' house. And so we I think it was Death's Symbolic. So we were really heavily influenced by that album. And we used that to also kind of get a lot of the sound too. So for that record, we were just sampling the hell out of a lot of things. Just we're in the studio and we're like, oh, this would be cool if we did that. And then Ben was, of course, doing different effects. And so that's probably obviously where we kind of layered some of the stuff as Station was kind of going on. But we also, there's a bit where I was kind of bitching at the drummer, because the drummer that we had for that record, he kept on messing up this one part. Couldn't get it. He kept on trying. And so we're like, okay, what do we do? And then I think Ben was like, hey, Chris, do a scream over that part. That'll cover it up. So there's I forget what song that might have been, but if you listen closely, you might hear just a little flub of the fill, and then you come in. So
now it may have been this one, but I don't know, because I actually really like the drums in the beginning of this song, but it builds up and then you scream. So I don't know if it was
probably not, because on the one song it occurs more in I think it's a bridge, so more in the middle. Yeah. So,
okay, I think it's Behind Closed Doors is the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, there might be a little flub there, possibly.
But yeah, I mean that intro was just, especially when I was at the gym playing through shuffle, and then that comes on and. And I'm like, okay, cool. Help me get that extra rep in,
Yeah.
But
yeah, we really didn't know how to write songs back then. I mean, Matt and obviously Hager, they were, for that record, they did the majority of it. But obviously, we just would come up with a part and then kind of work it in. And so obviously, but back then we're talking like 95 or 94. Some of those songs were written, and so it was definitely a good studio experience. But again, we just started hanging out with those guys, and we were playing with Skipline, and then we were like, hey, we'd be stupid not to record with these guys. We're on the same wavelength. So, and I mean, Mark was right there also. During our recording process, he'd always come out and hang out. And, of course, Ben and all those guys were. And we'd always hang out at the Country Kitchen. So I remember that was during the time that they were building the Strongsville Mall. So if you go in and you say, hey, I'm working on the mall, you got a discount. So it's like 10 or 15%. So we'd record and then hang out at the kitchen and get some grub. So that was
nice.
That was our time. So I think Mark also made mention on the website that he built for back to the beginning about hanging out at the Country Kitchen. So yeah, some good times. So, but yeah, it's always good.
Nice. And then you mentioned already Toy Box Records.
Yeah.
Like, so when you were recording with Ben, this was for, Years of Fire. And that was like, how did the Toy Box Records thing come together again for you?
So Sean Bonner was touring with Hot Water Music, and so he had a label, and I think he only put out, gosh, I think he maybe did one or two things, but he was getting ready to release the first Hot Water Music album, Finding the Rhythm, or Finding Rhythms, something like that. So when they came to town, we played I think a VFW in Elyria. And so after the show, he was like, hey, I really like you guys, And so then we started talking, and then I think he came through again, and he was like, I want to do something with you guys. So, so we, that was pretty much it. We, I think it was an informal thing. I don't think we really signed anything, no contracts, official contracts. He was just a cool dude. He was just down to earth, likes metal. But again, a lot of different genres too. So, and he lived in Gainesville, and he was also working for, he was running his label, and I think there's another label, the ska band Less Than Jake was also their friends too. So they, I think Sean might have done the Slayer 7-inch that Les and Jake put out of Slayer cover songs, like 2 Slayer cover songs. So, but yeah, the Hot Water dudes, they were awesome. I mean, when we did a tour, we stayed at their place, and we were there for a while, and we played a lot of shows with Hot Water back then, because we were label mates, and just they like metal, and we like their music, and so it was pretty easy back then. You're kind of friends with these people, and then they're like, hey, I want to do something with you, and we never had any issues with Sean. Then eventually he worked for Victory. So Victory Records, that's why when we did the Abomination CD, that's why we have the Victory tag on our CD, because he was kind of affiliated with that. So they kind of, I don't know if there was a release together or distribution with Victory. So, yeah.
Well, nice segue, because I was just getting into Abomination next.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, the artwork on the album. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was an artist that Sean had recommended, and he sent us a few things, and so he sent us these 2 pieces, and it was obviously this monster turning into an angel, and that's what we always kind of thought our music kind of reflected was, okay, this hard and heavy, but then the inner soul of it is obviously more positive and spiritual. And so then obviously the front cover, you have this abomination, and then obviously the angel kind of figure, the little boy, that we kind of always connected with. A lot of these lyrics are based on, things growing up and, obviously adolescence and trying to figure out who you are. And so I think that's what it clicked for all of us, when we saw that. There was, but yeah, I think that was maybe the second or third piece that we saw. Yeah, so we purchased it and became the album cover. So yeah, pretty straightforward with that one. So.
And then on one of my favorite tracks on that one, Elemental, you recalled that one, like the message you were sending to that?
That's funny. I could make something up. It's hard to get in that mindset, like when I because again, we're talking, a long time ago that I wrote these songs, and I think Elemental was actually one of our earlier songs off a demo. So not even some of the newer stuff that we had done, because there's certainly some newer songs that we did for Abomination, but Disarray and also Elemental were two songs that were oldies that we kind of resurrected and kind of redid for that record. So gosh, going back then, we're going back Years of Fire, 30 years. I wrote that song, and gosh, right offhand, can't even tell you. So I'm sure it's very positive, though.
Yeah, I know. Now, Primordial, the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Is that, Matt did all the guitars on that, or did Jason lay some?
He did. No, so Jason wasn't in the band for that recording. So he had already left.
Okay.
So we, so Jason, probably after one of our first tours, he had wanted to play guitar, and so he decided the bass just wasn't, fulfilling his desire. So he quit, and then we got. We kind of knew Big Metal Dave from Splinter. So Matt knew him a lot better than me. But he was a perfect fit. Very, very good musician, nice guy, and just was a good fit. So for the band. So, but that's when, we started just, the writing process was, I think Matt can agree that the writing process obviously was a little easier with Dave, Matt, and Craig Ramsey, the drummer. Drummers are funny. And Craig was an interesting one because he wasn't a metal drummer. He didn't do really any double bass, that you would just think of. Back then you had to have your crate amp, and then you had to have your double kick. We didn't have that. I think Matt might have had a crate amp. So, but with Craig, when, we got Craig, our sound really changed. I thought that it was a little bit more unique. He had definitely just a different style. And of course, he was sporting Natalie Portman on his drum head. So that was kind of weird for a lot of kids to see. They're like, well, who's that little girl on the drum head? Girl from The Professional. So, and Craig, but again, he was a guy that he was a very versatile drummer. He has played almost, I think he's touched bases in almost in every genre you could imagine. He plays country, he plays weddings now. He's played in church bands, punk bands, rockabilly bands. So having him, with a lot of the songs from, I think obviously there's that maturity with Abomination, when you compare it to Years of Fire, that, it's like, oh, wow, what happened to these guys? Well, what happened was our drummer and our bass player, and then obviously Matt was still, the main core. But I think he really, as far as musically, definitely got a little bit more, just more comfortable with playing with better musicians. So I think that's, where it was. But then I was also in a little different mindset for the recording of Abomination. So
now was did you go back to Ben to record that one?
No, we went to Mars. Bill Korecky.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Bill was on helm with that. Definitely a different experience. It was very serious in the studio, so we didn't want to piss off Bill. But Bill is a cool dude, so I really liked the time that I got to spend with him. Rest in peace. I was reminding Matt, we were having a conversation a few weeks back, and I reminded him of a story that Bill told us. He was like, "How do you remember that?" I was like, "Oh, that's a Bill story. I won't forget it." He just had a knack for just telling these stories, and just just an interesting guy. But obviously, you didn't want to. You didn't want to fart in the studio. You didn't want to do anything that pissed him off or you'd get booted. So he was very serious about his work. So
yeah, I heard that. And then one of the songs that's always been a banger, one of my favorites on that is Clayton.
Yeah.
Tell me about Clayton.
So Clayton, actually, I can tell you about that because that one is a little newer and my memory's not completely shot when it comes to that one. So I actually wrote that about a girl that had a strong influence mentally on me. Kind of drove me down to a place that was not healthy for myself. And so, and then my journey through that process and trying to get out of that situation. So, and it was, it wasn't a great.
So that's what you were just talking about with that whole album being in a different mindset. We can kind of thank her in a way for that.
Yeah, probably. Yes. I don't think she quite knows it's about her. But yeah, she's, very, just not a great situation, to be in. But
but the art that came from it, I guess, if we try and put a positive on it,
Yeah, always, I always look at, again, all the dumb crap I've done and all the things I've done that, probably not the best. I don't regret anything because obviously this is who I am. This is how I became who I am. And so that's why without those things that I've had in my past, would I have liked not to have it? Well, guess what? I may not be the same person I am today. So, I'm hopefully a lot stronger mentally as a result of that. And, also can see that with other people maybe going through the same thing and obviously help them with it. So, yeah,
I can relate on that for sure. I mean, I too am in my 50s, and when I look back, I just celebrated 17 years sobriety.
Awesome.
And I look back at how I was, like, especially, during my active duty time, and that type of environment, is very enabling. And then I'm involved in our, Cleveland music scene, hardcore and metal scene. And it was just like, everything had to be a rager. You had to,
Yep.
Party hard in that,
Yep, I get it. And again, you can continue that, or you can go ahead and move on and learn from obviously what you did in the past. And so it's, I think you obviously either you rise above it and become a stronger person, or you let it suck you in and, go down that hole that obviously, probably not going to get out of. So, so that was, that was definitely Clayton. So, and a lot of people say, well, what, I remember, Matt, I was like, because Clayton just I just assigned this word to this situation I was involved in just what I was going through. And I kind of just had this word pop in my head, Clayton. And I told Matt, he was like, is that even a word? I was like, I don't know. And I put like Clay, Den, and, combined them. And for some reason in my head, it just made sense. And so I was like, just trust me. It's the name of the song. So he after some time, he finally just went with it. And I think he was okay with it. He was like, that's not a bad name. I don't know what the hell it means, but whatever. So,
but the song itself, though, like I said, it's a banger. So,
it's always, it was always.
How many people are like all across the globe, saying this word that you made up, listening to this, like, play Clayton,
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, I don't know what the hell it means, but, obviously it has a lot of meaning to me. So, but obviously, so with the lyrical content, I'm sure everyone, there's going to be a lot of people that can relate. So.
And as you mentioned, you were just talking with Matt the other day. Now, when Ascension, like, you know, you had that reunion show that we were talking about, I think before we started recording 15 years ago, with One Life Crew at Peabody's.
Yep.
You know, gone on, you know, we've all gone on to do different things in our lives. We're parents, you know, family men, all that good stuff. But you've kept that friendship with Matt all these years then, pretty much, right?
Yeah. I'm so proud of both Jason and Matt. I mean, I look at their journey through music, and it was difficult initially because when we were recording Abomination, I had I don't know, maybe when Jason left, I just kind of, I was still into the band, you know, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking about my future, and I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? Do I want to pursue, you know, something professionally, you know, as far as healthcare, or do I want to do this? So I was kind of at that crossroads, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so then ultimately I started kind of taking some courses and went to Tri-C, and but then I kind of exhausted that, and I had already been working still at the hospital. I started in dietary and worked in housekeeping, and then there was a job open in physical therapy. And so I was a tech in physical therapy at like 16, 17. And so that really interested me. I really liked it. And so when Abomination was coming through, I then moved to Youngstown because they had a PT school and I was going to apply. And so when I did, I got in. It wasn't back then. It was a BS program, so it not like it is now, doctorate. Because I'm kind of old, so way back when, yes, PT used to be a BS, and so, but at that time, it was also extremely difficult to get. So they had 30 slots, and I believe the year I applied, they had 530 applicants for 30 slots. So I got in. First application went through. So, but the band was still going on. So, you know, I'm at this dilemma here, and you know, the recording was coming up, and I had to, you know, I was missing practices. I lived in Youngstown, and you know, cell phones and email weren't really much of a thing then. Gosh, I think I was still using a tone dialer back then, if you remember a tone dialer. So, yeah, so it was different. So eventually, going on record, Matt's going to be pissed, but they actually kicked me out. So people think I quit, but I actually didn't. It was the timing. There was just a slightly, they asked if I just stepped down before we played a show at the Fantasy. I forget who we played with, and they were like, but please do the show. I was actually going to quit right after the show. I was going to be a little bit more considerate and actually, you know, finish it up. But they were like, we're going to move on, and you obviously have your thing. You're more into this PT thing. And what really hit the head was I think Matt was in communication with someone to book a European tour, and he naturally thought PT school, you know, college. Most people are off in the summers, not PT school. When you're in, it is intense. I mean, it took everything. I mean, it wasn't easy. And so I was just focused 100%. I mean, my goal is I'm going to distance myself from all my friends, all my family, go somewhere where I don't know anybody, Youngstown. And so that was, my life was pretty much PT school. And so European tour came up, and so I come back for practice, and he tells me about this, and I was like, hey, I'm in school. He was like, no, you're off. I'm like, no, I'm in school. I go Summers straight through. And so he was pissed. So there was a time where he didn't talk to me. So after I left, I think he was still upset, but he was then kind of morphed into, he was playing with Ringworm and Integrity, and then he was Kamira's roadie for the first tour with Spineshank. And then Hagar, his girlfriend, I don't think he was married, or wife, they'll probably kill me, but she got pregnant. And so he stepped down and Matt stepped in. So, and then he was in my wedding. Matt was, I got married in 99, and Hager was my best man. Groomsman was Matt DeVries. So everything was kind of, we were good. And I mean, we've stayed in touch over the years, and Matt's, I'm just so proud of those two. Everything that Matt's done musically, and it's interesting looking at the growth of all of us over the years, that we're not dead, especially me. I think there was so many times that shows we did, there was a lot of rumors, that someone was going to stab me. I think we had a few potential stabbings at a few shows. So, but we're still alive and kicking. So.
Yeah, I've been talking with Jason. I've been wanting to get him and his son on to do my first father and son in music.
It's a trip, man. Yeah, I saw him because obviously I played in Years of Fire with Jason a few years back, and then they played in February at the Foundry, and London was right up there. And he's a cool dude, It's and Jason, it's just a trip seeing him, just like, wow, this is crazy. And then his sister is right there, and she's a huge supporter of both of them. So, so his sister actually, Chris Hagar, she's a few years old, I think 1 or 2 years older than Jason. She was actually my camp counselor in 7th grade. So I got away with so much crap with her. So,
nice.
It's just kind of funny that, I've been so a part of their family that now with London, it's gosh, it's just, it's kind of cool. But I mean, he would be 5 years old, and he'd have his, earmuffs on during practice. And this was Years of Fire. And it was, he was a chill kid. He was just, you never heard a peep out of him. He'd just sit there and just watch. And I think he just obviously just sucked it all in. And, now he's just, he's in 3 or 4 different bands. So. Yeah.
Now, before we get into the reunion really quick, with your personal career, choosing, the PT route, I mean, after that reunion, we reconnected in an odd way that I didn't think I'd, reconnect with you as.
And I know you.
Yeah.
You're like, I've been waiting for this moment. So.
I can finally stab you. No, just kidding.
Know.
But at the VA, I was there getting, I think it was my knee, or at that time that I was getting.
Actually, I don't think I was treating you. I think I was helping you out with. Was it disability?
They sent me out to Akron to see you for something for maybe
a functional capacity valve. Yeah, because I'm the only one in the VA that does them. So I help a lot of vets with disability claims and nexus letters, things like that.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was. Yeah.
So usually, and I'm a supervisor now. I don't usually do any treatments anymore. So I do those examinations, and usually it's a one and done. But and then they have me supervising I got 9 clinics and 16 employees. So keeping me busy. Yeah.
Now, how did the road lead to the VA for you?
So, it's one of those things that I look back and I was like, gosh, it was just perfect fit. When I first got married, it was funny because my wife, she had aspirations to go to pharmacy school. So she, I was working at St. Joe's over in Warren, and she was like, you know what? I think we should join the military. I was like, really? Said, okay. She was like, yeah. And I didn't believe her. So I get home from work, recruiter's right there in our living room. And I was like, oh, she's serious. And so this recruiter he was like, hey, I'm gonna possibly get a pharmacist and I got a physical therapist. Awesome. And so we talked to him, and we were, considering that would be the Army. I know, not the Navy. So, but she was obviously, she knew what she wanted. So she said, we just got married and I don't want to, mess this marriage up. And we will both join as long as you don't separate us. He was like, well, boot camp, you guys are going to be together. So she's like, no deal. And so that was one kind of thing that, man, I was like, I was kind of a little bummed. I had, in PT school, I had a good friend, Chris Flaw. He was in ROTC and in PT school. And so just kind of like that mindset. And so then we had moved to Pittsburgh, lived there for a few years. My wife went to pharmacy school. And so then I was coming back into the area, and we knew we wanted to get the hell out of Pittsburgh. So we were moving back to the Cleveland area. And so I reached out to some colleagues, and one of my guys I went to school with worked for the VA. And back in the 70s and 80s, VA had a terrible reputation, Cleveland especially. And that's what I kind of remember. And I was like, I don't know about that. So at that time, I was doing industrial medicine, working for some steel companies and in private practice physical therapy in Giant Eagle and Pepsi and UPS. And so I had already signed for another job. But this colleague of mine was persistent. He was like, just check it out. And so I was like, okay, fine. I got to sign papers anyway. I already took a job. Okay. And so I went to Wade Park, and I spent the whole day there. And I was just hanging out with different doctors, with veterans, and they, just affected me so much that I was like, man, I got to be a part of this thing, because they were like, we know we have this reputation and we need to do better. And we want to provide everything for our veterans. And I was like, man, I love this. This is, I'd be stupid. I didn't even know if they had a job. I called the other company and said, nope, sorry, not taking your job. And then I was like, oh crap. Do you have anything for me? And they're like, well, we got a Brecksville job, and then we're trying to get out into the Akron area. And so then I took the job. And then, and everything they told me came true. I mean, we wanted to grow and expand and try to get physical therapy out and try to reduce, unfortunately with the VA, we're so expansive that we're trying to get services to vets within 30 minutes or 30 miles. And so, I mean, since I've been there, right away, I think within a year, they said, Chris, you're going to be a supervisor. They changed my initial supervisor, switched to another supervisor. I was kind of in the outpatient field, and they were like, Chris, you're going to be a supervisor, and I want you to open up the Luring Clinic. And I was like, okay. Yeah, staff it. And I already had some managerial background when I was in Pittsburgh, so it was perfect fit. But I mean, since then, we've just been growing. And, the thing that really sold me, and, I would never go back to the civilian sector, because I just feel this connection with vets that, I'm civilian, but I can do even all my employees. I say, try to help the patient. Do whatever you can to help the patient. You're here for them. You know, a lot of times, some of these conditions you're going back to, you know, gosh, they're 60, 70 years old and they got injured when they're 18. You know,
Yeah.
you may not be able to actually help them with their specific, you know, complaint. Just be their advocate, you know, be there for them. And just, you know, a lot of times it's, listen to obviously what they have to say, because, you know, clinicians, they can get focused and, you know, I always call it the, you know, 1 minute rule. A lot of times your patient comes in and, you know, clinician already made up their mind what is wrong with you. And then it's like everything else you tell them, they just, no, I know what's wrong with you. And then they go down this route and it's like, no, there's so many layers to this thing. And, you know, dealing with guys and, you know, I'm like, oh, what branch of service were you in? Army. I was like, what did you do? You know, I worked artillery. Oh crap. Okay. So now I'm looking at, man, all the different loads and Marine Corps, Navy. It was kind of interesting, you know, as you're working through some of this, I was like, well, okay, you work down below in the engine room. And I was like, how did you have this condition? He was like, oh, you don't know how we get down the stairs? You don't do stairs. You slide the rails. And then you smack it, and then you go down the next one and the next one. I'm like, oh, piecing it all together. I'm just, wow. You know, and it's just like, you know, and then the boots and everything else you guys wear. And it's just like, oh, man. And so I just really, I mean, that's just my passion is just, you know, I never served. And I feel like, gosh, I'm here to provide the best care that I can for my vets and make sure my employees do the same. So that's kind of my career with VA. And I'm going on 23 years with the VA. So
that's awesome, man. And it's good to hear, you know, when we have people like you out there advocating for us and encouraging that, you know, means a lot. Now, bringing it back now to the reunion.
Yes.
Friday the 13th. Perfect. You know, Friday, November 13th at Globe Iron in Cleveland. Now, you say you've stayed in touch, you know, with Matt, who originally like pitched the idea to you, who brought it to you.
So I'm gonna put it all on Mark Hunter. So Mark and Jim, I've known those guys for such a long time. Actually, I met Jim first. Jim was probably the first Strongsville kid I met out of that group. So they, I think, just started making these, discussions that, hey, you know, what if we maybe looked at skip line? And so then obviously we just had this bond back then. And obviously look at how much we shared, you know, just so much between, you know, Ascension and Chimera that we have kind of shared. So, you know, so I think it was just a no-brainer that, you know, hey, can we do this thing? And so Matt, of course, lives in Florida. The rest of the other three members of Ascension, we're still local. Craig's over in Brecksville, and Big Metal's like right over in Copley. I'm in Fairlawn. So, so Matt was the only one that, you know, that's why we probably haven't done much, just because Matt, you know, is in Florida, and a little tough getting him out here. But so Mark pitched the idea to Matt. Matt said, hey, can you do it? I'm like, can my body do it? I don't know. So we'll see. Cause you know, I was like, so I'm in training right now. So I'm definitely doing a lot of preparation, because unfortunately with me, when I perform, I almost black out. I don't know half the things I do. You know, you knocked my tooth out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And so a lot of times I will go out, you know, after we're done, and I just go out in the crowd and just apologize, or I want to just make sure everyone's okay. I had one kid, gosh, I think I dislocated his shoulder. So I had to reduce it. So I was like, hey, I can help you out with it. I said, it'll be just fine. We're gonna lay you down. I think I threw down a amplifier, laid him down. I was like, okay, breathe, and then I just reduced his shoulder. So obviously, and I've
Well, it's hard to see what you're doing when you pull your shirt over your head too, and
I
talk through the mic.
Yeah, and Matt knows.
Into the mic.
Matt was like, "It's like you become possessed." I'm like, "It's probably
Yep.
your fault because you wrote the music." So
One
yeah.
satanic mass, and look at you.
So, oh gosh, I went to Well, I've had actually only one trip to the ED in South Carolina, so that was a bloody mess. My chin, I just busted it wide open, spitting out teeth. First song, the band, the drum kit was covered in my blood. Matt was covered in my blood. Hager was covered in my blood. And then, after we finished the show, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like pasty white. And I'm like, yeah, where's the emergency room? And so I walk in and they were like, oh my gosh, are you okay? What happened? Were you in an accident? I was like, no, I'm in a metal band. I just played a show. They were like, what? Covered in blood. Yeah, covered in blood. And so they stitched me up. And so that's where, and again, obviously I'm making some good plans for this show. So obviously I always know the length of the mic cord because I can't use a wireless mic because I'll chuck that thing. That thing will go flying. I won't have a mic. So I have to have a corded mic. And I always use the same mic. So I've had the same mic. It's a Shure SM58. I've had that thing for 25 years. I always have to get a new top for it because it is just, at the end of the show, the thing's just, the metal is just all ripped apart. So, because most of it hits my forehead and, so it's charred. So I just replaced it. It's brand spanking new. It looks nice.
Nice.
And stay that way after the show. So, but so then I go on the hunt, I always I get into the crowd. I just like the interaction. And so I always kind of like, that little sense of danger. When you're watching a band, it's almost like you're going to a haunted house in a way, but the band's up there and you just have this dude that's nuts that, he might grab your face and bite it. I've had a few guys that say, you bit me. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know I bit you. That's crazy. And it's like, how could you not remember? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm like possessed, just totally different mindset. So, and that's why I've gotten into a few situations where supposedly, guys come up to me and it's like, this dude was going to stab you when you came down. And I told him not to. I'm like, really? So, yeah. So, but there was a few times that Matt even said, Chris, stay on the stage for the show. So, because there was some guys, they wanted to kill us. So one show in Miami, I obeyed. I stayed on the stage. So
Nice. Good thinking, especially down in that area.
yeah.
Now we're much older. I don't think anybody would if you couldn't give that same intensity, but you're in training. You're going to have probably some of your workers there now seeing their supervisor up on stage. That affect anything?
So over the years, it's kind of funny. So of course I have a few, a lot of people don't know I was also in a movie too. So over the years, my employees have found certain bits and pieces. I don't divulge much. And, sometimes I get patients in and they know, they're like, you're Chris. And I was like,
when I showed up.
You remember? Yeah. And then, they leave and they were like, what was that about? What were you discussing? And so one of my employees that, he's been with me 18 years. And his thing is, we'll get new employees or students coming in. They're like, he always takes them, he comes up to me. And of course, I'm always in a shirt, tie, vest,
Glasses. Yeah.
So first question is, he was in a band. What kind of music do you think he played? Usually the number one answer, folk band. So folk band or Christian rock, that's usually, light rock, yacht rock. And so then he pulls out, of course, I think the only quick video that he pulls up is YouTube Euclid Tavern Show, where I think I shove the mic down my pants and then I pull it up and I
through the shorts thing,
and they just freak out. They're like, "What the hell?" And so most of them, and it's word's getting around with the employees. They're like, "Okay, we're gonna come see you." I was like, "All right, just be prepared." So
just be ready.
Just wait. I said,
Right.
So it's almost, but there's going to be a barricade. So I was like, is the barricade to protect the people from me? I'm thinking it might be. So, but barricades never stop me. So, yeah. But I always like singers that had that element of kind of danger that, when I look at a band, I look at two things. Usually I'm looking at the drummer and I'm looking at the singer. And I want to see a singer that's engaging and I want to be a little frightened. There's a band, I was running sound for this band called Dahlia Seed. And it was kind of this emo, screamo type band with this female singer. She scared the shit out of me. She grabbed me. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in love. And I had already had my stage antics, but this was like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love this. Because I was kind of shitting my pants, but enjoying the show at the same time because I was scared that she was going to, just tackle me and just like punch me in the face. And I was like, I love it. And so that just further, it was kind of the first time that I felt like I was doing maybe, what I did to others. So
Nice.
I was like, that's kind of a cool feeling. I kind of like it. And I'm scared to death at the same time. So a lot of people, would come up to me and they're like, you scared the crap out of me. But wow, you're a really nice guy. Because, no one pegs me for a singer. I'm a freaking nerd. I go up there. I always put my glasses on Matt's cabinet. And then, they're like, and then I think one show they had, of course, my friends always think it's funny. So after a show, one show, my friends thought it would be funny if, because I think it was after Christmas sometime. And so, yes, I would pose with my wife and the dogs because we didn't have kids. So we have just a bunch of dogs. And this particular Christmas card had me matching the same clothes as one of my dogs. And so I go up to the merch table, just played the show, and it's sitting right there. I'm like, what the hell? They're all laughing. And this dude comes up and he was buying a shirt and they were like, you know who this is? Do you? This is a guy that was just on stage as a singer. Look at the picture of this Christmas card. He's like, no way. I'm like, come on, you're killing me. I know. It's easy to figure out once people meet me that I'm not that same guy. That possessed dude up on stage, that's totally different. That's definitely Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type thing. So,
for sure.
Yeah. So hopefully I don't piss off Dave and Matt and Craig because unfortunately they do get the brunt of a lot of things. Because Jason was just reminding me, he was like, yeah, you remember that time you pulled my head down and I was playing guitar and I think he rammed his guitar head into my head. So, and then Matt, one particular occasion, I had just got my wisdom teeth pulled, and I think we were playing with OLC out in Menor somewhere, and I just stopped bleeding, and I had just got my teeth pulled that morning, and I was playing a show, and I was just all messed up. But the bleeding had just stopped, and I was, doing my thing. And then Matt, he jumped off the drum riser, kicked out. I turned and just got knocked in the jaw. And I'm like, oh, and the cotton, is coming out and blood's coming out. And then I'm like, you did that on purpose, didn't you? He's like, no. Yeah, you knew what you were doing. So, yeah, payback is always interesting. So,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how intense this one gets on
it will
November
be,
13th.
I might be dead, after the show. So I'm planning a few things that I have not pulled out before. So that's why I'm in training. So I have not divulged much information about what I'm planning, but it is going to be a banger. So we're going to have lots of fun. And also, I mean, we have a lot of things planned. So if you're a Skip Line fan, Ascension fan, Chimera fan, you better be there. You got to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be, quite a spectacle. So we have definitely a lot of things in store for, not just, the old school cats that, back in the day that, are now, 50, 55, 60, but also, the younger kids too. So I think it's going to be a well-rounded show. So, but we got something for everybody. So I think, and again, I got to thank Mark. I mean, Mark is, he's a good dude. He built that website. Website's awesome. And I think it's going to be a very interesting night, say the least. Friday the 13th is going to be
we shall see.
Now it'll be interesting. Yeah. So I don't know where it will lead after that. We'll see. I don't know if we'll do any of these after this. If I'm still alive, possibly. You never know. So
maybe even new music, possibly.
I don't know. I always leave that one up to Matt. Matt, Dave, and Craig. So if they have inspiration, I always have it. I can always, I always have something to write about. So
nice.
We will see. But I know there's probably other things brewing. So this definitely won't be the last that you see of me, at least. So there might be other things coming after this. So, but we'll see how this goes first. So if I'm still alive.
Well, we've been going for over an hour. So before we get ready to wrap up, I want to ask you a couple questions I normally ask my guests that I have on here.
Yeah.
What class do you feel should be mandatory before graduating high school today?
What class?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, it kind of, okay. So depends. Are you going to pursue your education career? Are you going to go to college or not college?
I mean, just something to prepare them for the world, whatever way they go.
I think history is, I think we learn so much from history. I'm big into, obviously the previous wars that we've been to, Vietnam, Korea. Okay, a lot of people forget about the Korean War, World War II, obviously everyone knows about. But I think history is one thing that I think really helps us understand what we've done in the past, and so we can grow for the future. So I think that is number one. What I would say, the only class, my dad was a guidance counselor, so he really didn't guide me that well. But he gave me one class that really, the only class that helped me in my college career was typing. So best class I ever took. Only the one that helped me. All the other high school classes, But I would say, nothing else really helped me. But I would say, as far as understanding how the world is, history is obviously extremely important. Social studies and history. So, yeah, I would say that's
And then who are 3 people who've inspired you and you can credit for making you the person you are today?
Yeah, definitely. I'd have to say, of course, my parents. Professionally, yeah, I've had a few. There was a professor over the years that Dr. Womble, real cool dude. He would always rock out to Ascension, and he just his passion for learning and just finding, he's kind of like a hippie. He just like finding out a lot about people. I like talking to people. I do. I really like, just seeing how other people tick. I don't care what you believe in or that. We're people. So it was just kind of one of those people that just, wow, he just is so knowledgeable, and he passes that knowledge on to others. So I like that. So, gosh, I'm sure there's other people. But yeah, I think overall I had a good upbringing. I think my parents were probably a little burnt out with my older brother. So by the time I had a lot of freedom as a individual, but a lot of the stupid things I've done over the years, I just kind of learned from them. And so I don't know if there was any one person that I could say, oh man, he really led me, there. I think there was definitely a lot of self growth on my part, and so I'm going to put the other person as me.
And then any message you have for our military members that are currently serving overseas?
Absolutely. We're thinking about you. Obviously, the things that you guys go through, it is very inspiring for me. Some of the struggles that guys in the, when you're in active service, in post, when you're out of the military, just some of the things that you're still going through. And, there are people that care about the health and well-being of veterans, and that, when you're in that situation and you come back, obviously help is there. And I think that's the thing that with the VA, there's, I always tell every vet, just how appreciative I am. And a lot of people take that for granted, that, okay, well, thank a veteran. Dude, my freedom is, I'm here because of you guys, and I don't take that for granted. I think, a lot of times it's, people just don't realize, the sacrifice that you guys make. So, yeah, I don't know what I would say personally, but yeah, I'm so grateful for obviously every veteran. So I obviously am pretty passionate about it. So I didn't serve, but man, this is how I am just grateful for obviously everything that you guys go through.
I'll say by what you do today, you're serving in a different way, so it's definitely appreciated when, like you said, you train your staff and everybody to, advocate for us,
You got to be empathetic and sympathetic, and really, help any way you can. Because again, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through sometimes with VA, and sometimes just having an advocate, having someone that listens to you, okay, where they can talk, and you can explain what their problem actually is. And man, I just do that, and I can't tell you how many guys that say, no one ever explained it to me like that. Like, really? That sucks. That should have been like day one. Okay, this is your problem. And so that's where, I've kind of felt, some things, some cracks that people might have gone through. And so that's where I just start the conversation. I'm like, okay, what do you know about your condition? Okay. And then backstory. What do you think, how do you think this happened? Especially for Nexus letter. We got to dig. Okay. We got to go back. Okay. Why are we saying that we think your knee condition is related to obviously the back condition that you had? Okay. Let's break it down. And then they look at me, they're like, wow, I didn't think about that. I was like, oh yeah, because there's a lot of studies out there that show different things. And again, you can start piecing it together and okay, this was in basic training. You did this. And then guess what? In deployments, you get injured. Guess what? Oh, you ain't going to take a week off. I'll tell you that off, right away. And, and it's the culture of the military, I'm listening to some of these guys. I'm like, why? You clearly blew your knee out. Why would you keep going? He was like, you don't want to be that guy. I'm like, man. And then I'm like, it's sinking in. I'm like, wow. Yeah, you're right. You don't want to be that guy because everyone's going through the same thing. And it's like, no, and I just find that, so fascinating. And that's why I have such a huge respect for the veterans that, gosh, I'm just, it still gets me. It's just like, oh man. And so that's where I just think, and I think people do, show respect for veterans, but I think, really, just, man, thank a veteran, just say, hey, man, thanks for, what you did and what you're doing and and what I can do is obviously, just give them, talk to them like, they're not a number, come on. And because they look at me and they're like, oh, who's this dude? Then I'm just talking like a normal guy. And they're like, wow, that's interesting. So
I'm appreciative of guys like you out there doing what you're doing for us. Now, just like your Nexus letters, going back to the beginning with the reunion, for any fans out there watching this that want to keep updated, you mentioned Mark's website and stuff like that, but if they want to see what's
Instagram,
going on,
so obviously Matt was chomping at the bait. He was like, hey, what is that podcast with Bill? And I was like, it's today. And so I'm sure he's going to link it to the Instagram. So Instagram, Facebook, actually I think just Instagram, and then the website. So all the updates, and we're going to keep kind of throwing some stuff out there. Obviously, thanks for your help to get the word out. But so far, I think Globe Iron's it's bigger venue. So we want to make sure that, hopefully there's more than 2 people there, but there will be.
There will be for sure. There are going to be a lot of us. Some of us
at first I was a little concerned, but I was
knee
like,
braces and whatnot, but we'll be there. Yeah.
It's going to be a good time. We're going to have a lot of fun. So we're excited, and like I said, we're going to pull out all the stops. So we're going to have a lot of surprises that I think people are going to be kind of psyched, very surprised and psyched at the same time. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, Chris. Thank you again for your time. It was great talking with you and catching up.
Yeah. Hey, now I'm not a virgin anymore. First podcast.
Yeah.
What?
I'm glad I got your cherry, man.
I know. That's awesome. Sweet. All right. Hey, thanks, Bill. Okay.
All right. Take care.
All right! Listen up! Hold on to your seats. Grab your girls, grab your beers.
Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Anthrax, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
This is Mark Metcalf, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio.
You are listening to today's Boondoggle with Bailey on Domain Cleveland Radio. Yes, Kato Kalin listens to this all the time.
Welcome to today's Boondoggle. Now here's your host.
I am Monty Heath, so one Heath, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle.
Boondoggle.
Hey, what's up? It's John from Skillet, and you are listening to today's Boondoggle on Domain Cleveland Radio.
Fasten your seatbelts.